Eh bien, salut la VOD, on se retrouve pour la VOD bonus numéro 2 sur God of War 2. Avant toute chose, il y a quand même des précisions à faire. Alors, nous allons regarder le contenu bonus vidéo des trésors. Mais le problème c'est que dans cette version, il est sur un deuxième disque. Le problème c'est que comme le deuxième disque n'est pas un jeu à proprement parler, je n'arrive pas à le faire fonctionner. D'accord? Je n'y arrive pas. Du coup, ce qui va se passer, c'est que je vais aller chercher ça sur YouTube. Donc vous inquiétez pas, le montage est tellement magnifique que vous vous rendrez compte de rien, quoi. Mis à part que il y aura pas de sous-titrage français, donc vous avez intérêt de comprendre l'anglais. Sinon, c'est la fessée. Voilà, c'est tout ce que j'ai à vous dire. Donc ça va se passer comme ça. Parce que là, c'est chiant. C'est chiant, j'en ai marre. Donc maintenant, gros bisous, petit cut, et on se retrouve pour le contenu vidéo de God of War 2. Eh bien, c'est parti pour les trailers.
Upon defeating Ares, Kratos, the once mortal warrior, finds himself on a journey to the ends of the earth.
Ok, donc le jeu a été présenté comme ça, apparaît-il. C'est quand même une sacrée bande-annonce. Hein. Imaginez-vous. Les bandes-annonces de jeu maintenant. Au moins, ce qui est excellent, c'est que ça, c'est du gameplay. Là, on n'est pas sur des bandes-annonces de maintenant où on nous ment. C'est pas mal. Bon, là, on nous a menti parce que normalement, il y avait des petits pièges, hein, mais... Donc sachez que les graphismes du jeu, voilà, ils étaient censés être comme ça, hein, c'est véridique. Donc je suis heureux de comment moi j'ai rendu le jeu. C'est magnifique. Du coup j'ai un let's play de très grande qualité, quoi. Donc, moi j'y avais joué comme ça à l'époque, hein, sur ma télé cathodique. Mais bon, l'avantage des télé cathodiques c'est que ça rend pas comme ça, du coup ça, on dirait que c'est beaucoup plus beau. Les télé cathodiques c'est trop bien. C'est vraiment la vie, hein. Cette animation, on ne l'a jamais vue. Hein. Mais bon, ils ont dû changer d'idée. On voit que c'était pas encore le jeu en version finale. Hein. Donc il est sorti en 2007. Deuxième bande-annonce. Ils sont pas embêtés quand même faire les bonnes annonces, ils ont juste pris des vrais moments de gameplay. Tranquille quoi. God of War 2.
I am what the gods have made me.
Upon defeating Ares, Kratos, the once mortal warrior,
Troisième bonne annonce quand même. Hein.
on a journey to the ends of the earth.
Mais c'est la même que la première. Hein. Ah. C'est très répétitif quand même. Ah, c'est vrai que moi je me suis jamais raté, mais si on se rate, on retombait sur Pégase en fait. C'est stylé de le voir, hein, on découvre des choses. Hein. Cette arme, on ne l'a jamais vue d'ailleurs, c'est vrai que j'ai pas réagi avant, mais ça m'intrigue beaucoup cette arme de vent là. Elle n'existe pas. Hein. Mais si, je crois que moi je l'avais déjà vue sur mon jeu sur PS2. C'est ça qui est bizarre, je l'ai vue sur PS2 moi. Deuxième vidéo bonus.
Lunch. This is a monumentous occasion. This is the first lunch I'm gonna make and take to work because so far multiple people at work and my mother have told me to stop missing lunch because meetings tend to go long and I never get a chance to eat. So I end up eating like a bag of Doritos. So now I'm gonna have an apple and a sandwich. This is my first title as game director. First time in the chair of game director. I expected it to be hard work, but the sheer volume of work and the amount of stuff you have to carry in your head and be on about all the time is staggering.
Ça commence vraiment comme ça?
Huge. Such a horrible sandwich maker. This shows my true inexperience. I want to take what we started and push it 10 times further, you know, get more of the story, more of the mythology embedded in while picking up all the things that we felt, wow, we could have really done this better. All right, all set for school. You know, it's my face and my name out there that if this is bad, I'm the guy. You're the guy that fucked up God of War, you know, like that weighs heavily. I truly believe that we are putting absolutely everything we can into this thing.
Oh, making of. On va se régaler. Les DMC, non? Oh là là, je le sens pas. Oh là 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 là, l'aide. Mettez des musiques de God of War s'il vous plaît, putain, bordel de merde. Ah, blablabla. Il y avait Boba Fett. Qu'est-ce qu'il fait là?
Ken? Anyway, am I scared or nervous about doing the job? Yes, terrified. But the reality, and the good fortunate thing is, only when I get a chance to think about it. I'm not given much opportunity to think about it.
We're starting to get to the point where we have a lot of stuff done, and it's going to be cool to start showing it to everybody.
For the most part in the project, I'm, kind of an information person, going to different departments and like a sponge, soak up as much information as I can. So
on reconnaît le menu du jeu.
In the proper way. It's very, very challenging. At times it can be incredibly stressful. Like right now.
Let's get back to it.
It's Rita calling from Sony. In terms of our new leads in the departments and their rising from a senior level environment artist to an art director, from an art director to a producer, from a lead animator to a game director. It's really a testament to the level of skill that each individual brings, that they have that multifaceted background, or at least the drive to pursue something and pursue it at 110%.
So you can't jump onto the chain until you activate it. The way a game director works at Sony, you gotta have your hands in everything. Maybe much to the dismay of some of the other people, you're the quality control, you're the check to make sure that everything stays within the realm, the mythos that we've created with God of War. I'm in meetings right from when I get in, probably till it's sometimes later than that at night, and then I actually have other work that I have to get done, instead of just sitting around talking like a gas bag. So it sounds like I'm bitching about it, but you know what? It's not, I'm totally into it. I love it, but it's definitely bigger than I had ever imagined.
One of the biggest new elements I've had to mentally deal with is the idea that as a producer, you're essentially everyone's boss, so you do wield a considerable amount of quote-unquote power. From the creative side of things, it's probably the one thing I have to constantly put a check on. From where I came from, I was way more involved in the creative.
Ouais, y a un truc avec ça qui me paraissait un peu bateau dans le jeu, c'était le logo des pouvoirs en haut à gauche. Ça me plaisait pas trop là quand j'ai joué.
This scene is so fucked up, it doesn't, I mean, it's like, where you start. There's a lot to be learned about just interacting with people and keeping my cool as much as I can, and, you know, not trying to offend people. Like on the last project and up until I started as an art director, I was very blunt and kind of, sometimes I might have had kind of like, you know, a fuck it attitude. But now I have to be a lot more political about things. And it's actually like, the more I do it, the more I understand it, the more I enjoy it.
Oh, les DMCA!
Decided when we originally started the Santa Monica studio was to go for a very open plan office, so that everyone sits in an enormous room. There are very low dividers between different people's desks. We try and keep people sitting next to the people that they are directly working with. So, you know, the combat guys have most to do with the animators, so they sit next to the animators. Production's sat slap bang in the middle of the floor. They basically can see everyone moving around. Everyone is near to the production department. The programmers are all sitting next to each other, and we sit near to the technical artists because they're people that we spend an enormous amount of time communicating with. So, you know, the entire structure of the studio really aims at fostering easy communication that doesn't rely on email and doesn't rely on chance encounters in the hallway. It's very important that you make people talk to each other, and this seems to be a very good way of doing it.
My initial observation was like, holy cow, you know, everybody is there, and my desk in particular is right on the kind of the main thoroughfare, like I-5 running down the middle of sunny Santa Monica. So, you know, I hear everybody walk by, I hear everybody's conversations. I prefer it just because, you know, I can give Steve shit, or I can give Todd Pappy shit on my left, or whatever. I mean, for that, it's kind of a nice break than just locking yourself in your office.
First coming here, I liked everything about the place except for that aspect of it. Is sitting in a big, basically like a gymnasium with a bunch of desks in it, and like you could hear like half of what people are talking about all over the place, and it might be kind of hard to get focused, but it really does bring out that collaborative experience. It's in your face. You see what everybody else is doing, so you end up understanding inherently from working here and walking, you know, to go get a soda or something like that. You get an understanding subliminally of what's going on in the game.
When we want to get something in the game as simple as Kratos, the main character, goes up to a giant column in the world and grabs it, and then when the player rapidly presses the circle button, he's going to be able to like pull on it and then successfully pull the column down while the column breaks and shatters. There's enemies on top of it that end up falling and dying. Just that one sequence alone, you have to involve the level guys, because they basically have to create the space in which it takes place in. Those level guys will also be modeling the column. Animation has to wait until that column gets designed. Then effects have to get put on it. Then a designer has to put it in and attach it to the buttons. And then a sound person has to come in and attach the sounds on top of that. If any special code has to get done, meaning a tool needs to get written in order to get this to happen, code has to be notified early on. Almost every single department has their hands on this thing, and this is a thing that could, you know, basically take up a minute of gameplay.
C'est très mal fait. Oh!
It has about 70 people on it. We got a pretty big team. Each department within the game development process has their own lead. And each week we have leads meetings kind of discussing specifics of what's going on.
I will jump right in with Charlie's updates.
Great, okay. This title, Visual Development Director, is really kind of something that we wanted to test out because we really didn't have anything like this in our production pipeline. I really wanted to get all the visual development guys together because before there wasn't a lot of collaboration. We represent the whole minority group here. Yeah. Anyway, this is actually what it's like. I want to get an update on what you guys have been working on this week.
Okay.
If you guys have been working this week,
Salut Waiteven, comment vas-tu?
Eric, you want to just kind of run through some of the stuff that you've been working on?
All right. This is the
Bienvenue.
Titan Oceanus concept that we've been working on. It's about camaraderie, I think, you know, with the people that I work with. They constantly push me, and hopefully I push them.
How big is this guy right now?
He's huge. He's massive. It's just kind of about really enjoying yourself and
Et toi, j'ai changé de compte? Ah oui? Qui est-ce?
Stuff in your mind to create something
Ah, j'ai perdu les anciens.
on God of War 1.
It'd be so cool if we can actually fly.
Qui est-ce?
Oh yeah.
I think they were talking about that. I don't know if it's going to happen. Cool.
Écoute, moi, ça va sinon.
IO horses. I'm definitely excited that I get to be part of, you know, a team that gets to create this, you know, world that people are going to see. It's just another take on Greek mythology, so it's really cool.
Cool.
Le mec qui fait boire l'eau.
Form a team that we can really feel comfortable to say anything, whether it's, you know, critiquing each other's work or just wanting to hang around with each other. That part of it I'm probably most proud of on this time around.
We switched gears and we started doing something completely different at the drop of a hat. And that happens all the time. My job is primarily managing the production side, the art, the content that
À cause de moi, t'as mis la limite de temp. Oh waouh, ça date tellement. Oh, je sais plus du tout. Hein.
On paper first. The art group is comprised a number of different teams. There's the animators, there's cinematic animators, tech artists who basically do everything from create rigs for characters to create scripts to help environment artists model faster. Then we have environment artists and we have character artists. And we have effects.
Oh, TVP maintenant. Ah, Joy-Con. Ok, je crois que c'était ça. Hein.
Features and making tools for the artists and the designers, for that matter, to use.
Voilà, ok.
We don't write the game for them. We write the tools which they use to make the game themselves. And we've had enormously good results from doing this. We find that the artists are much better positioned to use all this cool stuff than programmers are.
C'est rigolo de voir la map comme ça de loin là.
My job here
Ça fait
entails
bizarre.
managing the level design team, making sure they're on task and on track.
Level design is a lot about coming up with the puzzles and the layout and the pacing of an area and coming up with the themes and how they integrate with the story.
Yeah. A really good puzzle is you come in, you know your objective, but you're not really quite sure how to reach that goal or objective. And it's kind of the process of going through and figuring out and having that aha moment, you know, like, oh, I get it. And then you're able to like go ahead and solve it. And as long as it's not too like hard, not too easy, it's finding that sweet spot.
Okay.
You can trigger a camera.
Une femme, oh mon dieu. Là déjà, waouh, waouh. Ça mérite de revendre le jeu. Waouh. Wow.
The challenge for the designers is we really have to focus on making it fun. I mean, a lot of ideas are good in theory and they sound like they can be really cool, but taking it from a concept and a thought and an idea to actually making it work and playing
le stylo rose.
different things. Our job is to really nail, hey, is this fun? Is it challenging for the player?
Everything. I thought you only been focusing on animation.
No.
Well, yes.
Whole experience.
I'd say that the sound needs a total rework. Because the sounds of it crashing through, none of it sounds impressive. I want DTS 6.1. The best laid plans, you know, it is exactly the best phrase for it, because it doesn't matter how well we plan something out, it doesn't matter how solid we think something is. When you get in there and you see it in 3 dimensions and you play it, you're like, wow. In my head and on paper, it felt different. We have to fix this, you know, to change this. I'll magnify that by 1,000 because it's every single aspect has the exact same result. Each department, you know, art, animation, characters,
visual development, programming, and design. That was pretty sweet.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Here at Sony Computer Entertainment America, we hold things together with really important tape.
What the fuck? T'as l'impression qu'il y a 200 bureaux mais 20 personnes. Ouais, Santa Monica Studios, c'est tout le temps comme ça.
One of the areas that I'm most pleased with and surprised about.
Oh, je la connais là.
The fact that there are a lot of people that really banded around Corey and supported.
Et qui était encore dans God of War Ascension, je crois.
Without the team, he's left with nothing.
I gotta say, it's way better than it was before. But what I would like to think my reputation is, hey, this guy is very passionate and is constantly all about the game. Like, works tirelessly to find solutions in every possible aspect, and whatever is needed, I do to get the job done. What really most likely goes on is, meh, he's okay. He's a little bit easier to work with than Dave, but you know, he still changes his mind all the time.
Oh là là, la fenêtre.
If only he could choose what he wanted. But overall,
Windows 96.
You know, that's probably what it is. Mixed in with, I think he's a dick. I let them
dick? Quoi?
To give them a full sense of security.
Corey's generally a pretty good guy to work with. There's been a few times, particularly towards the end of this project, where you could swear he's channeling Dave Jaffe sometimes. You know, he can be a very stubborn individual, but generally he's a pretty nice chap.
You know, we'll be sitting in a meeting and Corey will say something like, you know, whatever happened to the Golden Fleece or something like that. It's like, what? You know, everybody's like wondering what's going on with the Golden Fleece, and that becomes the new
ça n'existe pas, ça.
The priority isn't the Colossus anymore, it's the Golden
Fleece.
Well, the Colossus is a lot more
Ça me
important.
dit un mini truc.
Priorities change just like that on a dime, so it kind of changes the dimension of the team a little bit very quickly.
Corey's a handful, and yes, Corey can be flippant, but it's all it's all well-meaning. I mean, Corey has a great vision, is making a great game. We're all here to support that vision. And you're going to have to change your mind a lot. You're going to have to keep pushing the edge. If something doesn't work that sounded great originally, you're going to have to change it. You might have to change that thing 15 times. And I think that's why people can get frustrated with anybody in a creative position, especially one that is in a director position. I mean, everybody bitches about Stanley Kubrick, but he went out and made the finest films ever.
When is that on?
Bizarre leur écran un petit peu.
Who watches fucking PBS? I thought people just pretended to watch PBS. Like, I watch the Discovery Channel, the History Channel, and PBS. That's really what I watch.
Ça gêne personne que ce soit violé. Ils sont malades. Hein.
We are experiencing some technical difficulties, so we're doing a redo and starting over.
Nice. I'm ready. So it's just going to start in odd 10.
That's very pretty.
Hello?
But does your wife do your ringtones for you or what?
All right.
Quand tu dis que ça à l'époque c'est le télé de riche.
There was a glitch in the Cyclops minigame, so we had to start over, and I blame Joel Tobble for that. That's him right there, ladies and gentlemen.
The talent level of the team, just the amount of guys here that are able to produce art and animations and think of different crazy ideas to do with Kratos and the programmers. The talent level on the team has just been absolutely astonishing.
Although challenging and not easy and not perfect, I think the teamwork that's been going on for the past couple of years is something this whole studio should be proud of.
I've never met a group of people who are more enthusiastic and passionate about what they do.
Nobody really has an attitude or that's misplaced or anything like that. Everybody has this healthy level competition, and you know, you look over your shoulder to see what somebody else is doing, because maybe you can learn something from them.
When you see other environment artists and you go over at lunch or on a break and you check out what they're building and you take off ideas from them and they bounce off ideas with you and everyone's giving feedback. It keeps a little bit of healthy competition going, and at the same time it brings up the quality of the game.
This is a team that I think truly inspires each other.
You have to be on all the time, and if you're off, people notice and the work suffers. So, you know, you generally need to come in and have 5 good days, not a single bad day. Of course, that's not possible because we're human.
La pire coupeur du monde. Coupure évidemment, pas coupeur.
E3 is a big opportunity for media to
oh, la gueule!
what's going on with the various software as well as hardware.
It's kind of an
Elle a totalement changé.
for developers to kind of show off.
It's bigger than Oscar night. I mean, it's huge. It's a chance where you get all these, you get all developers, you get all studios, you get all the gaming consoles like PlayStation, Xbox. Everyone's going to be there. It's hyped up. Everyone's psyched up. Everyone's just a fan of games.
We are about to go into our E3 meeting, sort of a pre-E3 update meeting to kind of get a status check from all the key leads of where we're at on the entire game. And this is actually going to be my first playthrough of the E3 build all put together. And hope everything goes fantastic because we don't have that much time.
After I hit yes or no on the progressive scan, what's the next image that comes up?
Front end. Making demos for E3, it's kind of one of those necessary evils, and it's something that we decided we would embrace when we were working on God of War. We decided, you know, man, it sucks doing this, but you know, let's just make the best of it because you know, if we're ever going to make this game successful, then you know, making the press notice it at E3 would be very important.
We start Corey first.
So this begins where?
This is the beginning, right there. E3 is important to God of War 2 because
Oh, il joue en 16e.
this is our opportunity to get the franchise out. We're kind of taking the training wheels off here and giving other people the controller and saying, you know, you play it the way you want to play it. We're going to have to gauge their reaction from that.
Why did that guy just disappear? Is this not working? I didn't do anything. I don't know if this is all the latest stuff because I'm seeing older animations. That has to get worked out. What about the art on this area? I thought it was...
It's done.
Yeah.
Like, those little landing pads are missing.
Did we like check this stuff before we have a meeting like this?
Corey,
be more effective.
we were doing our best to do that.
I'm not saying you're not doing your best. I'm just saying, like, would it be more advantageous? There feels like a lot of stuff like
We
this.
wouldn't be having this discussion until 7 o'clock tonight.
Qu'est-ce qu'il fait avec un bouffon dans la main?
That's what it's gotta be. That's what it's gotta be, right?
Et dans la bouche.
No.
Qu'est-ce qu'il fout? Ils sont malades.
I don't know, maybe if there's a lighting thing to do to kind of call attention to it a little bit more. I really want people to walk away from this going, fuck. I really didn't think that they could make a game better than the first one. We're just gonna trigger the Medusa to fucking jump you at this point.
Il doit se régaler d'y jouer en 16e. Ça, à l'époque, là, ça...
She's big enough that she essentially almost fills the front screen and she just...
Du coup, moi, j'ai joué en 16e, moi, du coup, mais... Là, je ressens l'effet que ça faisait à l'époque, là, en fait, dans leur scène, là.
Be more dramatic, but I want to stay in the hallway. I don't want to pop to other angles.
I understand. Player's here, she jumps out, scares him, knocks him, boom, and the camera keeps tracking towards the Medusa, so you get close up into her face and then cut.
That's a CS move.
It's not a trivial matter.
It's no longer simple.
It's a non-trivial matter.
It was a simple setup before, and it won't be that.
Right.
It's really easy to go through a production and go, you know, okay, this is sort of working all the way. I'll get the last 10%, you know, when we start heading down. Problem with that kind of mentality is always that 10% turns into 50, 60, 70% because it's like, oh, well, what I thought was going to work didn't. Now I'm back to the drawing board. E3 allows us that opportunity to just go, we're going to get it all done, and it's got to be done all the way. And it kind of is a little wake-up call for a lot of people. I think that's great.
Well, Pegasus animations, just so the Pegasus himself feel like we're still in first pass with not a lot of stuff in there, and I thought we were going to be much further along.
This is the new God of War 2. This is going to be our signature piece.
Steve is the guy that has to basically jump in the middle of the firefight and calmly figure out how it's all going to get figured out. Bullets whizzing by all over the place, and he's got to figure out what's going to go on here.
Il avait un problème à l'oreille, là, Cory. Regardez-le, son oreille droite. De sa droite. Ah non, mais c'est deux oreilles, en fait.
You know, hey, we should change this. Let's put this over here.
What?
If we had rain in this scene, this would be awesome. Budget's going up in his head, schedule's ballooning out of control, and I'm just, you know, like a kid who's found his dad's gun, firing it all over the place. He's sitting around waiting for this problem to get solved on his own.
There's a lot of animation work to be done.
For whatever it's worth, it seemed like we've been talking a lot about like
Bizarre, Cory, bizarre.
some animation stuff, but it seems like when you go through the level, there's no enemies in there.
There's a
no
lot of
chests.
design work that has to go through.
Pegasus is like almost like completely undesigned at this point.
I totally disagree with that statement. You guys need to sit down and play Pegasus.
I played every day at Ray's desk. I mean, it's not.
Right.
It doesn't feel like. I'm not trying to start shit or anything. I'm just saying like we've been talking a lot about the art.
I just felt like the artists are here, and from a Pegasus standpoint, I had said I need to sit down with Chip and Aaron.
The purpose of this meeting is just to talk about the things that we can do, then I basically have no place in saying that, I guess.
Steak's coming from a really good place, man. He's a guy that I feel truly leads by example. You know, this guy shows you that it can be done by doing it himself, by really instilling that sense of pride within your own work, by showing that he has that sense of pride in the work.
I'm not trying to start shit like it's not just observation.
Yes, you are, but it's a good shit that you started. This isn't a dig on you, so don't think I'm attacking you. But you fucking suck. No, but seriously, we gotta fucking step it up.
That's it.
Excellent. There are numerous red flags. There's a ton of stuff that really needs a lot of work. Stitching the level together still really isn't there. It's kind of duct taped together. Not even duct, it's scotch tape. It's scotch taped together right now. It's not even that much. We've got a lot of art issues, a ton of animations that have to get done. So we're gonna have a lot of fun trying to figure that one out. It was a good thing to kind of get a status check for everybody, but we have a shitload of work to do.
It was also mentioned that the projectiles that fire from Pegasus seem to be coming from the
Le fameux stress de tous les God of War à chaque fois. Ils nous racontent que pour l'IA, à chaque fois ils sont en PLS.
It's an interesting situation that we got into because it's kind of like developing a new game. Every step of the way, you know, you get one thing fixed,
C'est pas terrible.
find something else that you didn't know about. So it's not like you can say it was broken, but it's a new feature that you need, and it's still happening right now.
Pegasus is a different game. Might as well be called Pegasus.
Ouais, c'est vrai que ça rajoute un autre jeu dans le jeu, quoi.
This year, we
Ah, la
made
gueule.
Pegasus, and it sucks for all of us, but we all kind of feel the exact same way, which is we don't want anybody to see it until we all feel 100% about it. So that's the sort of the double-edged sword of E3 is, you know, you can chase the demo, trying to get it out there, trying to show people what you got, but if it's crap, you're gonna pay the price.
I was running the Pegasus push to E3, and to see that not make it was like getting kicked in the balls by a donkey. Very hard.
I think in the end we'll be all right, but I think right now there's still a lot to figure out with Pegasus.
J'aimais bien lui sa tête, mais le problème c'est qu'on dirait que c'était un peu un pédophile, quoi. Après je dis ça comme ça. Mais j'aimais bien, mais il me faisait un peu peur.
Everybody's stressed out, so you don't want to talk to anybody. You just kind of, if you stick around our little biz dev area, it'll be safe. So we're pretty relaxed. Hopefully this will only be seen after the game comes out. So we have to kind of get everything out before everybody builds it. So we've had our share. So now it's their turn.
Et derrière lui, le squelette avec un énorme chibre dans le bas. Ils sont dégénérés en américain.
I'm sleeping there tonight, man. There's no hope for you. It's all over.
There you have it. I'm sleeping here tonight.
And that hole that is created, it feels like we made it more extreme, like actual cracks that appear on one frame.
Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça? J'adore voir des trucs qui ne sont pas dans le jeu final. Ça me fascine.
Years off of our life due to sleep deprivation, but you know, we got a lot done. They get to a point where they're just like, I don't know, should I attack? I don't know. Over here, they just want to love. So yeah, I don't have any idea why he's just decided now that attacking is
Sacré gars en tout cas.
best interest. It's incredibly daunting knowing that the entire team is pushing themselves really hard and everybody's, you know, staying late, putting in lots of overtime and really putting everything they have into this demo.
It's a much more tense environment than it normally is. I mean, everyone's really under the gun. A lot of pressure, a lot of tired people.
It's not rocket science. No one
Il est
dies as a
bizarre
result
quand
of
même.
doing it, but it's a pretty stressful job nonetheless.
J'aime beaucoup,
Lots
mais
of very passionate people working on
il y a un
the
truc
project
étrange.
that leads to some arguments and stress. And there's definitely a few evenings you go home and you just want to go and punch something.
The stress level gets high enough that I just try to mentally just stop myself from caring and just sort of robotically go about it. No matter what somebody says to me, it's just like, okay, they don't mean that. I'm just going to keep moving.
There's a lot of freaking out and then just kind of stepping back and just reminding yourself that, you know, it's a video game.
Who controls the camera tween? Does anybody? Is it automatic? How's that work? The product is ours. We have the right to beat the living crap out of it.
C'est les FPS en bas? Et là ils ont 150 FPS?
Brutal and evaluate it from the, you know, this is shit. This is the worst I've ever seen. I mean, we have the right. We're creating that. We have the right to say that. And I find that if we don't take that approach, or if someone doesn't take that approach, when we release the product, everyone else in the world will.
There's a smoothness
to where the animation needs to be, and it's not there.
It's not about you're not doing your job. It's about the product isn't where it needs to be. What do we need to do to get the product there? That's always been my philosophy.
I gotta say, the ending is low budget.
It's truly a live or die situation, you know. I want to make a great game and I want to make a great experience, but if I don't, it's probably it for me. I hope not, but most likely it is.
Oh là 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 là. Les DMCA.
I drove around for an hour looking for a parking space. I had forgotten how fantastic E3 is. Fuck that. It's been a long road and we only have a small amount of the game finished. But it's showing very well. Right now the booth is pretty packed. We've only got 8 stations, so a lot of people are at the booth. It's very exciting, very good for us. I'm looking forward to seeing people's responses back to this thing. Right now I haven't heard anything, but seeing the crowds is definitely an inspiring thing.
But it's cool, it's so surreal, like seeing the game you work on, like on the floor. It's awesome. Fantastic. I like the same gameplay with more intense moves. I like that you can do multiple grabs and that even though the guy is technically dead, you can still beat the crap out of him.
As a consumer, I say, why am I going to go draw cash on a 360?
Ça me dévaste. Il floute des gens, mais pas tous.
I can get that kind of performance out of my PS2 and a game that looks that great. That's awesome.
I was actually kind of bummed out when I heard we were going to do this game on the PlayStation 2. You know, going to E3, I was just like, this is great. We're squeezing juice out of the PS2 that's, you know, looking at the games at E3. 99% of the time when I look at a game, I'm like, our game looks better.
The day we ship our Gold Master, that will be the end of the PS2 era for me. And I'm going to be very sad. It's been, without doubt, the most fun console I've ever worked on. It's been a very, very good few years working on this machine. And I really feel like we're giving it a good send-off.
I think at E3 to see even with the PS3 booth 15 feet away, we still had lines of people wanting to play the game and people really enthusiastic.
Ah, il y avait Okami en même temps. Oh là là.
That's why we suffer.
Je l'ai vu.
And that's why we enjoy ourselves, is because we want people to have fun playing it and to see people having fun playing it.
Peut-être que je le fasse Okami un jour, hein, de ce qu'on m'a dit.
It's all about.
Peut-être, hein. Joli en plus. Joli, on me l'avait offert, j'avais jamais joué.
31 years old and I still can't believe I made games, right? And it's just, that's a trip. That really is kind of worth it. But yeah, it's incredibly rewarding to see people that actually are feeling something when they play this game.
I'm like, this is the most excited I've ever been in my life. Dude, I'm totally geeked up. I showed up yesterday, I'm like, whee, you know, all happy. Nuts. This is great.
Between hyped up, exhausted, relieved, stressed, I'm all over the map right now. It's been a pretty crazy day. I think the interest in the game is really high right now, and that's awesome. I think it's, you know, it's really encouraging to see, and I hope that we can build and maintain this level of media hype. I think it all speaks well to this game coming out of the door next year and just rocking.
Oh, les musiques à l'ancienne. Exceptionnel. Ah, mais il y avait Socom, c'est Socom à droite, je me demandais ce que c'était. Incroyable, hein. Il y avait Socom. Oh là 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 là. Ça tue, hein, une belle époque. Hein.
All of the content that's taking up the proper amount of memory space on the disc, implemented in the way that it's supposed to be implemented, though it may not be fun, though it may not be perfectly, the emphasis on the syllable was wrong, perfectly implemented, and it may not be, you know, have the final look of the entire thing, but the elements have to be there.
Okay.
Good to go.
Sweet. Thank you.
Solid.
15 days until alpha. Yay! Basically, this is the big push. This is it.
Basically, we're in the mode right now where there's the final things that we're putting together to put together the game.
These guys are working their asses off, and I'm thinking about how to reward them. We have to do something. We have to get together and really have an opportunity as a team to toast each other, toast the progress thus far, and you know what we've been able to achieve in such a short amount of time, and with the stresses and the strains. These are the most talented people I've ever been privileged to work alongside, and that's the honest to God's truth.
I feel great. We have done a lot I know that at the Halloween party last year, we still had a lot of work ahead of us and there was a lot of uncertainty. What we've accomplished in this period of time is just amazing.
Il y a des grosses basses, mais le problème c'est que c'est peut-être DMCA quoi.
But they're finding their reserve tanks and they're finding strength or will to continue on by seeing progress being made in all the different aspects of the game and really being inspired by each other.
Ah oui.
There's definitely a few things in this game. There's been a couple of things I've seen in the last few weeks. It's like, god damn, that's pretty fucking cool. It's gonna be pretty good.
Bah ils se font plaisir à Santa Monica Studio.
For our studio, if we can come out and make God of War 2 better than the first one, we'll be recognized the industry over as a powerhouse.
It's all about doing what we can to achieve perfection. And I think we know we'll never hit it 100%, but the mantra that's never talked about, but the general force of the leadership here within the studio is let's always strive for it.
Oh là, oh là.
The best game possible, the amount of time and effort and energy and life that I've put into these things, I don't get it back, so you might as well do it right.
It's really for the fans of this game, and the more people that play it, the better that we feel. That we've really reached out to a lot of people, taken these people on an adventure, told them a story.
Parlons de Kratos, oui. Non, c'est mieux, hein.
Fan-fucking-tastic. I mean, it seems to be taking a bit more
C'est tout. Allez, salut, je me casse.
like a lot of people.
Voici, voilà comment ils ont fait God of War Ragnarok. Oh là! Hop, dans un écran. Dans un écran, terminé. Mais ils sont malades. Ils sont fous. Complètement malade. Les voix de God of War 2.
We are here at Signet Sound Studios, recording the voiceover dialogue. It really is the first time my words are coming to life from a voiceover perspective, so it's very exciting.
We're getting ready to record Kratos, the lead character in God of War. T.C. Carson, who plays Kratos, was the original Kratos in the first God of War.
Athena, you conspire against me?
Kratos is this god that he's been stripped of everything. His mother's dead, his family's dead by his own hands, and he's just seething with anger and guilt and all of that.
Return to Sparta and prepare for battle!
People who play the game, they like being Kratos. You know, they like having that power. They like wielding that power. I, as a voiceover actor, I like wielding that power.
C'est puissant.
You defy the god of war?
I have a lot of rage. It's really not good. I'm trying to work with it, but you know, I can't do like Kratos does. I can't go out and just maim and mutilate people. I have to go and meditate. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Kratos, the once mortal warrior, finds himself on a journey to the ends of the earth, pulling him into the inevitable darkness. What I'm being when I am a narrator is a storyteller. And that's the most primitive form of theater. And it's what I love the most.
You certainly don't live up to your reputation, do you, Kratos?
It's been a real interesting ride, that Clash of the Titans thing. This movie that I didn't think was going to really go anywhere.
Ils ont flouté pour pas spoiler le jeu.
Became this long-lived, iconic film.
At least I can bathe in the glory of being the one who brought down the mighty Kratos, the slayer of gods. Although I hardly think a harpy's fool such as yourself deserves such praise.
It's very interesting to go back in the booth today and try to recreate the ethos of that character and try to not make him sound too much like a kid, but more like a guy who's, I mean, obviously, I mean, Perseus would be a little bit older now. He was that in 1979.
Andromeda, my love, you will soon be with me again.
That's very nice.
I suppose there's a certain responsibility to bring credibility to a character like this, an iconic character. But it's really, it's a challenge to go out of your own self and to find a character that bears no resemblance whatsoever to who we are in our everyday life, and that's why I became an actor.
What do you mean, Gaia?
Not very often do you get the chance to play something as an actor that is so far removed from who you are, and not really removed from who you are, because we all have that side of us. And it's been really fun to be able to tap into that side of me, that Kratos side of me.
I got it in my mind now.
We want to make him big.
I got it. We can. This is going to be good. It's going to be real good.
I'm very excited about Atlas. To me, it was a big coup to get Michael Clark Duncan, because when I thought about Atlas, that's the voice that always attached it for me. He has an incredibly powerful, commanding voice.
You dare show your face to me? Who breaks my chains of torment? He's a physical character. He's
C'est incroyable.
one of the strongest guys in the world. Actually, he carries the world on his shoulders. You know, to carry that around with you, especially for eternity, that's, I can't even imagine. You
Vous vous rendez
have
compte
everybody's burdens right on your shoulder, and it must be very painful.
de qui c'est lui?
So big, he has absolutely no care in the world.
Oh là là, c'est incroyable.
There isn't any need to push it out. His voice is so powerful, even in a whisper.
C'est l'acteur de la ligne verte.
You don't have to shout at all.
Don't
Thank
shout,
you.
yeah, don't shout at all.
You don't have to push it at all.
The relationship between me and the voice director is very unique, because she is giving you, or he is giving you, specific directions on how you should say the line. That director is there to help you get a physical and a mental picture of exactly how this character should be played. I could not do this any other way without having somebody back on the other side tell me, okay, Michael, say it like this, say it a little softer, say it a little bit more angrier. They're very essential to what I have to do.
Quelque chose me fait beaucoup rire. Imaginez, tu regardes la ligne verte en voix originale, et tout le long il avait vraiment cette voix là quoi. Non mais
Usually they tell you to bring it in.
c'est ingérable.
Make it smaller. Can you tighten it up?
Return to Sparta and prepare for battle.
In game world, bigger is definitely better. And in a game like this, you really can't be too big.
This is take 9, and
This ends now.
That's good.
very nice.
Ah ouais, ça je reconnais. C'est la vraie.
It's great to work with people who can work with you, who know how to work with you, and know how to get the best out of you.
All the power that made Kratos the god of war.
What's so odd about doing these games is that, in fact, I can't tell you about my character because I don't know anything about her.
You want a fairly gravelly, inflected voice for Gaia. So I'm wondering if perhaps the narrator is just a more simple, straightforward voice.
Narrator and Gaia are the same character. They're just presented differently, and we don't want the voices to sound at all different.
They're working in broad general lines with Greek mythology. And so I address the language of my lines in an epic fashion. But beyond that, I really don't know anything. I'm just going in the dark. And they say, oh, that's great, or oh, we'd like to try that again.
So this exclamation point after away, even though he's got his head down on the door, is that still...
When he says, and now you've dashed it all away, that's when he's going to turn around and it's the accusatory, like...
To do a voiceover of something that I've never seen. I mean, I know Perseus, I know that character because I played him, but I have no idea what's going on in this game and what the challenge really is within the context of the game. So it's a little odd,
Am I, the great Perseus, to kill this fallen god to receive an audience with you?
Nice.
Will that allow me to bring my love back from the grasp of Hades himself?
Yeah, that's great. That's where it's at. That's the level.
The people that create the video games, I'm sorry, fellas, but they're a little nerdy. You know, t-shirts, jeans, and, you know, they are really particular about their game. To watch them listen and see their game come to life is really a joy.
But there was more resting on Kratos' shoulders.
Cette voix, c'est vrai que c'est abusé aussi. Hein.
My nephew is a big gamer and has friends. Sorry. Has friends who game. If they're all as bright as he is, yes. Sounds like a very interesting group of people. Fight Spartan.
Ils sont tous incroyables.
I missed by a long shot being a computer kid. I was one of those people who had to learn how to do it in my 40s.
So you're not a gamer?
I'm not a gamer, no.
My experience with video games in general is that right there.
But, you know, I'm from the generation where, you know, computer stuff is, you know, we getting through it.
A war the Titans believed we must win. I used to play video games, the racing, and I got kind of geeked up on that, and I found myself spending like 5 and 6 hours playing this racing game, and it just took too much time. And I said I should be doing something else more productive.
To me, I don't get it. But then again, you know, I'm an old fart.
Nothing will stop me in my quest! I will have my vengeance!
I saw some of the pre-animation stuff, and they had put the voice in already, and to see the character move and to hear my voice come out of that, it was a trip.
I would like to get that body right there. Maybe a couple more pounds, a couple more push-ups, I'll be there.
It's a good thing I don't have to turn into that, isn't it?
C'est exceptionnel.
My title is Senior Technical Artist.
Okay.
The duties that involves are setting up production pathways, maintaining those production pathways, and then specifically on the technical end, we use a lot of what we call MEL scripting, Maya Embedded Language, which is our 3D package. And we write scripts and tools and UIs and that to make certain processes as easy as possible for the artists to use. All our characters consist of simply a character hierarchy, which is his bones and his geometry and textures. And then we have a list of files elsewhere that are the animations. And we're able to look at those really quickly simply by opening each file, but it proved to be even more useful to be able to put them all in one file and look at them in sequence. So we could see how the run goes into an attack, which goes into an idle, which goes into another attack. I think we're going to see some exciting results from the animators being able to use that and see their stuff a lot more quickly.
Oh, la DMC!
I was really creative, but then I found out that I was more technical in the long run. Okay, I guess I'll come up and look at it. I think I'm pulled away every hour. Maybe I get 2 hours at my desk on a hectic day. Sometimes I don't get to my desk, which is the worst. Hey, Jackie. I generally tend to know everybody's position on what they do or can and can't do, and most of the bugs that come around. So I generally just get to fix it. It's probably looking for another camera. If I wasn't here, most people would think that it might explode the entire building, but I kind of beg to differ, because if everyone pulls their knowledge together, we could make it through no matter what. Another problem solved. Just one more in a long day of solving problems.
A good technical artist should definitely be creative, but the most important part is being technical. There's a character called Pegasus, and it's basically a horse that has big wings. The character artist that was working on the feathers was trying to figure out a nice way to make the feathers look realistic. We did a test with joints. We had 10 joints per wing that we used to move the different points on the wing around to give the effect of turbulence deforming the wings and the feathers. We quickly realized that that's something that's going to be too expensive, so we pursued other ways of doing the same effect. I then did a test with something that's called blend shapes. The way it works is we create 3 blend shapes, one for each version of the random kind of feather movement. And the way we do that is we just select the mesh, we duplicate it, move it to the side, We then select the vertices where the feathers are, and then we use the script that randomly moves these points around. Here we have the 3 versions of the different feather effects, so you can see that these feathers are kind of randomly moved around on each version. So if I move this up, you can see it, the points moving randomly. And in the game, when we bring it in, it looks something like this. I really enjoyed trying something new that's never been done before, at least not in
Dans le jeu, c'est vrai que ça rend bien.
When the challenge is, hey, we want you to do something grand, but on the other hand, we want you to make it as cheap as possible for the engine to run. And when this worked out, it was a really good feeling.
Dans le jeu, ça rend bien. Par contre, c'était bien dans la nuit. Non, mais il y a un problème. J'avais dit que le jeu, il y avait. Moi, je me souvenais qu'il y avait beaucoup de trucs dans la nuit. C'était sombre, c'était nuit. Là, quand moi j'ai joué au jeu, tout était en pleine journée. Pas normal.
Responsible for the environment concept on God of War 2. Previously I worked on a God of War 1 with Dave Jaffe. It was really difficult process first game.
Oui, le temple de la châssis, oui.
Coming out from the 3 years experience.
Il était en journée, mais le reste.
It really got me burnt out. And luckily, second time, we had a little bit more freedom on creativity to go a little bit more free on the design, the environments. And one thing that I learned from the production was that because I easily get caught up with try to find a solution in architectural details, which was wrong because that sort of limited myself to use different ideas. And now I understand the game better because this game is about the God and it's about this the larger than life. It's all about the nature and about this crazy thing happen because what that mutual power is like jealous each other or try to overpower each other. And by knowing that, I mean, it's not just about architecture, it's about understanding how the world is going to be set and how we can push it to make it just bigger than what people can imagine.
Ok. Les concepts des créatures.
Hi, my name is Andy Park, and I'm one of the concept artists on the God of War 2 team, and I'm talking about the God of War 2 creatures. God of War 1 created
c'est beaucoup mieux que dans le jeu.
Different creatures that more or less the audience is aware of, like the Minotaur and Cyclops.
Sauf là.
All the creatures from Greek mythology. God of War 2 has a lot of those same creatures, but they really try to take it to the next level.
Sinon, ils sont tous incroyables. Hein.
Creatures that are really just cool to look at and also to play or fight against, but we also want to always keep the mythological look. It always has to stay Greek, and that as a concept artist, that's the challenge that we faced. A group of 6 or 7 of us that we had on this team, not steering too far away from the Greek and the mythological look. We did take the Minotaur and the Cyclops and a lot of the creatures from the first game and kind of give them a different spin, a different look. We're really trying to just kind of
essayer de mettre un rectangle blanc, à peu près blanc derrière, et de le faire ressortir sur du noir. Ça le détache tellement le truc en question du fond, c'est incroyable, c'est trop stylé.
Creatures in Greek mythology, unfortunately, are not able to have all of the creatures in this game.
I like to think of music for video games as providing a function that is different from all other pictured media, whether you're talking about film or television. Somebody is actually performing an activity. They're holding a controller and they're doing something. And so that musical score is scoring the gameplay experience. In God of War 2,
c'est pour ça que le son il sature. Hein.
The game itself is punching and driving and swords are smashing into things. So there's an intense, percussive, slamming quality to the God of War musical score.
God of War 2 score really tracks the intensity of the game as if it's just another player in there, like another.
Ah bah c'est très mal géré, hein. Entre les voix qu'on n'entend pas, le son qui sature et tout ça dans le jeu, on est bien.
I think one of the most impressive things is the fact that we can have multiple composers working on this project and end up with a very unique, cohesive sound.
We actually had 4 composers who are also on God of War 1. Gerard Marino, Mike Regan, Ron Fish, and Chris Velasco. We work closely up front with the director, Corey, to really kind of define what musical cues are going to be needed. And then we design a cue list. When we get all those cues from the composers, they're kind of raw materials. It's time for us now to kind of cut it all up and adapt it and make it work in the game itself.
We spot the game the same way that directors and composers sit together and spot a movie. And we're free to do all the different things that we can do in editing and in programming the music so that it sounds like you're actually hearing a cinematic score when you play the game.
This time around, we added a lot more live production. Some of the compositions are a little bit more complex and frenetic, and we really needed just like the best players to really pull this off.
And so we went to London for our brass. They just have an amazing sound. They're among the very best players in the world. And the brass plays a very important role in God of War. When they literally sight read their first cue, bam, it came out at us, and we were like, that's why we came. Same thing was true in Prague, where we got our strings, and we recorded a 40-voice choir. They got the music very quickly and put their hearts and souls into it.
The live music then comes back and has to be incorporated back into all of the source material we received, and just sounds incredible. The
Là, ils y sont les pièges.
Overall, like the rest of God of War 2, is a massive undertaking. I think it speaks a lot to the quality of the game we're working on.
Après, je sais que ça s'était pas déclenché parce qu'il fallait avancer pour que ça le fasse.
Such a great time. It just clicks.
Je parle bien dans les trailers au tout début.
You really need a great video game to be a vehicle for a great score. And that's what we have with God of War 2, just like we had with God of War 1. I mean, you end up with an experience that really raises the bar of what people should expect from a video game.
We're combining synth tracks from the composers, brass from London, strings from Prague, choir from Prague, and all these elements coming together, whammo. It was like, okay, this is why we've done all this.
Oh, la main dans le sol. Ils ont fait aucun effort.
Today's important because it is the first playtest. It's the first playtest for the game, and it's the first playtest for me as a director. So it's kind of a monumentous occasion.
The week, it was long. It felt like about a month. So, you know, a lot of late nights, ton of effort, a lot of putting out fires, a lot of running around. But it's typical of this industry.
Last night, it was rough for a lot of people, but they all pulled through, man. I'm wickedly impressed with this team. Yesterday all day, everyone's running around doing what they got to do and really kind of working like a well-oiled machine, so that was fantastic.
Problem after problem after problem, and we did as much as we could, and we got to the point where we couldn't think anymore, so we had to call it a night.
Welcome to the first official playtest for God of War 2.
Hopefully those guys are just smiling like, oh my god, this is the best!
Everything is being videotaped, and it's actually being fed down to another room. Multiple people can view it from multiple perspectives.
So far, everybody's fallen off the bridge. And we forgot to put a message on the chests, so nobody really knew how to do the chests to open them. think one of the responses would be, man, this game is rad. Everything you did about it is so good. You guys rock. I want to be like you. In which case I would be like, oh, please, no. We'd be very excited, but also somewhat bummed because we wouldn't get much constructive feedback about how to make it better. The other extreme end would be, wow, this sucks. The first game was so much better. What happened? What did you do to it? And then, you know, we would be sad. The third type would be...
Oh là là, les notes sont pas terribles. Hein.
You know what? I felt this part was a little too hard. It would really be neat if you had better enemies. The level was confusing, and I got lost at this point, which would help us on our level flow. So we go, oh, okay, that's good. We can pick something up from there. So the third is the most desired response. Chat about just some thoughts. Good thoughts, bad thoughts, anything. Just throw out stuff about overall experience of the level.
Integrating the puzzles with your exploration as well is great. Because, I mean, you're constantly seeing something new even while you're solving puzzles, which is pretty cool. They had great results. I feel honored that they worked this hard just to put together a demo for us to play. That's pretty cool.
The stopping the time was real cool. That's, you know, real new. Couldn't do that before. That's going to have a whole new aspect to the game. And, you know, so far, you know, really got me hyped up to see the rest of the game.
Les mecs sont corrigés par au calme.
Very well. Even despite the little flaws that really bothered me, and I wish we could have gotten fixed, people look past that. I just wanted to get everybody together. We just finished our first playtest of our first level that kind of has gone through the pipe, and it was received extremely well. It was great to see everybody kind of pulling together, and a great moment for everybody to see people enjoy it.
Those of you who are barely awake, go home.
Yes.
Okay, about 30 seconds away, people. Okay, people, let's do it. And a hush fell over the crowd as they ascended the staircase.
Prendre leur secrétaire, elle a vraiment une tête de secrétaire, quoi.
First of all, welcome and thank you for coming. This is extremely important in our development process, so please be as brutally honest as possible. If you have any problems, Adam and Paul are here, and I think that's about it.
These guys don't have any preconceived notions of anything, so therefore they'll catch all the mistakes that we just take for granted. Games that really heavily playtest the product really elevate themselves very far above most other games. God of War 1 was playtested like crazy, and we benefited greatly from it. The levels we did in playtest on God of War 1 were the Hades blades, and you see how well those turned out.
Je sais pas ce qu'elle faisait avec sa manette, elle n'importe quoi. Hein.
Oh, dude, the fucking bounty volume thing on the trainers.
Yeah, the 2 pop away.
The 3 pop away.
Yo. Hey guys, please keep in mind they can't use the wind magic. We're watching number 3 right now, using the bow. Please ask them to stop.
Sometimes the way you talk is really annoying, Steve.
Well, you know what?
I just want you to know.
I find it
I think
annoying.
it's a friend, like, hey, you're walking too close to the edge.
When the obvious, when you have to tell people the obvious 8 times, gets annoying.
Well, there's 2 guys watching 5 monitors. Absolutely feel free.
Les notes sont pas fous à chaque fois. J'aime sont pas forts là.
None of us get any better unless we find out what's wrong. So, do not hesitate at all.
I don't know about the rest of you guys, but the surprise rock guy who popped out at you, that freaked me out. It was great. I mean, I know if I'm playing at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's gonna scare the shit out of me. So that was really great.
I'd like to see exploding enemies.
Did you actually on one of your things say you wanted more screaming?
Yeah.
Okay. So, come on, that was good.
See, I got a parking ticket this morning and I was pretty pissed about it. And this type of game just makes me feel happy. Like at the end of the day, if somebody fucks with me, I come to this at home. I just sit down, I beat the shit out of people, and they're like screaming blood everywhere, and I feel good.
That's fantastic. This guy is, you know, the epitome of the God of War fan. He's the type of guy that we totally appreciate as developers because he's so freaking into the game. He's also the type of guy we're probably scared to meet, you know, in the real world, like in a dark alley or something like that, because he's fucking out there as his love of violence.
I really wanted to see that thing topple onto an enemy's head and like smash him and have him like writhing in pain underneath the rock.
He may be taking it to the extreme, but I think everybody has maybe a piece of what he talks about, which is, I've had a bad day and I want to go home and I want to vent my helplessness at a situation at work out on something, and I don't want to do it in the real world. I play this game and I tear this guy apart and I feel powerful. Thank you very much, guys. This is awesome. This is really going to help us. We fared better than I thought we would, especially with how down I was this morning about it, so I'm psyched.
Oh mon dieu, 8e playtest. Ça n'arrête plus.
Today we are testing the roads level, which is the first level of the game, the opening sequence. Roads being the first level is exceptionally important to have that, you know, huge epic opener, kind of topping what we did in the first game. It's got to be bigger than the Hydra. They come in here and some of the stuff is arted up. They have no preconceived notions on anything. They don't know how to use any of the stuff that we've been working with the whole time. So they get all these abilities and they're just like, what the hell? What's this do? I don't understand how this works. They don't understand that something only lasts for 8 seconds. Well, we totally get it because we said it's going to last 8 seconds. So it's a rude awakening to sit there and watch it and be like, oh, just do what I want you to do now. But, you know, teaches us.
We were discussing earlier how strict the time limit was.
Playtesting like this is vital. The people in the studio, very close to the project, have played it a lot. You don't see the obvious a lot of times. So the feedback is always incredibly valuable because they're the target market. They're the guys that are going to spend their money to buy our game, and we're here to satisfy the fans.
Thanks again for coming in. We got a lot of work to do. We have 3 weeks until alpha. So looking at that, I know that we have some tough roads ahead of us for the next 3 weeks to get everything into shape, and it's time to go home.
Qu'est-ce que c'est que ces connes? Oh!
Today is our second annual Halloween party. It makes the working and kind of the more grueling
Je peux dire quelque chose?
when we can have a good time.
J'aime bien dire des choses. Pourquoi ce sont de gros connards comme ça? Voilà. Pourquoi ce sont de gros connards? Ils ne peuvent pas travailler sur le jeu et de faire ça? C'est-à-dire qu'ils auraient travaillé à la place, le jeu aurait été 10% mieux.
A level. We're I think 6 or 7 months to alpha, so I've already had to start hacking away at my baby. We had a couple meetings, we were in character meetings and we were in effects meetings, and everyone was kind of getting really tense and really stressed out. This is a lot of stuff, this is more than we thought, you know, the realization that you've got some pretty hard roads ahead of you kind of hits everybody, I think, pretty hard. I had a meeting with the producer afterwards and he was kind of like, you know, maybe you should think about cutting Atlantis. And I think he was partially joking, but he was also a little bit serious on, you know, hey, you may have to start making some cuts. And I was like, look, I'm not ready to make any cuts. I had that cheesy, like, what is that? Project the first year when he was like, over my dead body, we won't get that. And it was kind of how I was, a little baby throwing a tantrum. And then I sort of realized, wait a minute, maybe this is for real. But in the end, I've learned a lot from that.
Oh, ils m'ont vraiment cassé les couilles.
That I want to start cutting shit all over the place or anything, but I know that that's going to come again. Most likely I'll be sitting here talking to you again about what I had to cut again, and maybe 2 or 3 times after that I'll just be like, I don't care, cut some more. You know, maybe we'll just be cut crazy. We'll release it on like one of those really small discs. You know, God of War 2, 7.5 minutes long. Just kidding, it's not even gonna come close to that. The object of the game is to stomp out other people's balloons, much like other people's creative dreams.
Travaillez sur votre jeu, bande de connards!
Balloon or creative dreams stomped out. It's actually a great metaphor for game development. It's a group of people shooting at each other's ideas down.
Are you supposed to stop your own thing or not?
That's not really true, but it is.
I think if we can get all the balloons tied around everybody's ankle before they pop them themselves, we should be in good shape.
J'ai jamais vu des handicapés pareils. Hein. Je me demande s'ils ont 1 an et demi ou pas en fait. Mérite-t-il de faire des jeux vidéo? Je ne pense pas. Je pense qu'il mériterait la mort déjà avant tout.
Of their pie in 5 minutes or less. And Ashley, are you opting out?
You're talking trash.
All right, I'll do it just because I like talking trash.
I'm kind of full right now. I don't know if I can handle this delicious pie.
I'm ready for this. I'm going to take it out. This is my pie.
One hand only. The other hand behind your back. First one to finish all their pie wins, or the first one to finish as much in 5 minutes. 3, 2, 1, go!
C'est... En fait, de regarder ça, ça aurait dû être un objectif de sub, quoi. J'aurais dû demander 100 subs, quoi. À 100 subs, j'aurais peut-être chiasse, quoi. C'est dur, hein. C'est dur, ça me donne envie de tuer des gens. Ça me donne envie de me casser, en fait. Ça me donne envie de... prendre une voiture et ouais, rouler sur des gens, quoi, dans la rue, là. Sur eux, encore plus, évidemment. Parce que s'ils peuvent mourir, ça m'arrangerait, quoi. Trop marrant.
Stuff. I got baskets of joy, and this is my plaque. My friend Kratos. I drink to him, I salute him.
I would say that I have an infinitely larger amount of respect for the concept of a game director. I never knew the half of it.
J'ai envie de mourir. Ça m'a niqué toute ma journée de regarder cette merde là. Et quelle bande de connards, quoi. Je suis là pour regarder comment ils ont fait le jeu là. Pour voir comment ils s'enculent. Pardon. Pardon, mais ça m'a niqué la journée. Putain, mais... Si je regarde pas la télé, c'est bien pour ne pas voir des connards, donc qu'est-ce qu'on m'en fout ici là?
Pray to God it doesn't crash. It'll be the largest I've ever seen this game projected, which just means any flaws are going to be like the size of a midget. All right, let's do this thing. It feels so much larger when you have a projected voice. Awesome. We are so completely set. It's crazy. I feel like one of those weekend seminar speakers. We loved God of War 2, but we're deaf now. As long as they love it. And that's really all that matters.
Il a tout le temps envie de mourir lui, c'est pas possible. Soit on le voit en train de mourir, soit en train de pleurer.
Gods of Olympus have abandoned me.
Donc ça c'est le 1, ouais. Cette cinématique on l'a jamais vue de notre vie, hein. Ça n'existe pas dans les jeux. Non mais on nous met des trucs qui n'existent pas, on n'a jamais vu ça. Bon ça oui. La transition est un peu mal faite, mais on va rien dire. Elle aurait pu être plus douce. Waouh, bah du coup, c'est pour God of War 2, et ils ont montré à peu près 3 minutes de God of War 1 et 1 seconde de God of War 2. J'espère que vous avez apprécié.
So what we're going to do is kind of go right into this little sneak peek, pulling up the curtain a little bit demo. You guys are the first ones that are really going to...
Très belle démo pour le 3. Ok, évidemment ça commence.
One of the things we're really excited about in this game is that Kratos has a journey to the edge of the world. So instead of just having him hop on a Pegasus and play a cinematic, we're actually going to make the player fight their way to the edge of the world. So this new gameplay experience is going to have the same combat system that we have on the ground, except you're going to be fighting these battles thousands of feet above the earth. So that part of the game is actually not necessarily directly linking up to this next part of the game. We wanted to give you guys kind of a diverse experience.
Ouais, c'était pas du tout comme ça avant, ouais, ils ont tout changé. Ils ont tout changé. Ils ont rajouté des heures de gameplay entre les deux. Et surtout qu'on n'arrive pas comme ça. Pourquoi ils rigolent, ces connards, ta gueule? Ils me font chier à rigoler parce qu'il y a des gens qui perdent leurs yeux qui sont à foutre là, c'est pas marrant là. Ah, trop marrant, il apparaît avec son attaque, vous avez vu? Je suis un fils de pute. Pardon. Oh, ça m'énerve, pardon. Gardons notre calme.
And the enemies that we're bringing back are not just going to be sort of the standard size, we're actually going to be bringing back some of the other larger size enemies.
J'essaie d'aller mieux là. C'est bon, ça commence. Bravo à tous, c'était une démo de merde qui a duré, je reconnais hein, le gameplay là, voilà, moins de 5 minutes. J'espère que vous avez apprécié. On a vu plus de God of War 1 que du 2 et c'était de la merde. Mais... J'espère que vous avez apprécié cette petite démo.
This is our blood, sweat and tears, man. We would
On se donne rendez-vous l'année prochaine pour la sortie du jeu.
What we strove for. We are absolutely not resting until we eclipse the quality of the first games. The response we wanted was what we got out of that press event. Because going into it, I kind of was like, what is the point of this, you know? E3's in 2.5, 3 weeks. Let's just show it E3, you know? But it was good. I see the purpose of it. That's really what game development is. They just keep moving the goal line, you know, taking the ball away when you're trying to kick it. It's generally the status quo for this job.
Intéressant. Comment jouer à God of War? C'est vrai qu'on sait pas trop comment jouer. Hein. C'est bien de nous montrer ça après qu'on ait fait tous les autres God of War de l'univers. Eux ils nous le mettent dans le menu du jeu quoi. D'accord. C'est vrai que le fait que ce soit marqué en bas ça suffit pas, on est obligé de me l'expliquer. Ça veut dire quoi? Attendez, j'arrive pas à comprendre ce que ça veut dire. Ah! Ah d'accord. Quand il va trop vite, hein, ça marche pas comme ça. D'accord, leur truc il est même pas bon. N'importe quoi. Ah ouais. D'accord. D'accord. Wow.
You'll actually continue your swing.
Ah, on avait jamais vu ça.
Holding it, you'll keep swinging. When you press the X button, you'll release, and you'll be able to continue on to either the next grapple or where you need to go.
Wow, wow.
The mechanic that we have from the last game is the stick shake mechanic. So when you get frozen by a Medusa or get hit by one of the Griffins, the stick shake icon will appear in the left-hand corner of the screen. And essentially, you take the left analog stick and shake it back and forth rapidly until you either shake out or die. The circle button appearing above the creatures basically indicates that you can go and grab the character and enter a CS minigame.
J'avais pas compris, c'est dingue. C'est dingue que j'avais pas compris en fait, moi ma manette en fait c'est pas, regardez, c'est un B Moi, ma manette, c'est un B, c'est pas un rond. Je comprends pas comment on fait. C'est vrai, hein, moi j'ai vraiment joué avec cette manette. Hein. C'est un B, vraiment je comprenais pas quoi. Je me disais, mais on se fout de ma gueule. Ils veulent que je joue au clavier ou quoi. Dingue. Il faut, en fait, faut appuyer sur rond au moment où le RGB de mon clavier il arrive sur la couleur qu'il y avait sur le rond, c'est ça? Ah, et sur le rond, au moment où c'est orange. Maintenant, hop. On a découvert que ça a fait un aperçu des sous-titres d'ailleurs, magnifique. Donc sachez que maintenant quand vous appuyez sur rond, ça vous donne un aperçu des sous-titres. Bravo à tous. Ah d'accord. Oh, c'est vrai que c'est pas marqué, donc j'avais pas compris. Moi en fait c'est pas L1 R1 en fait, je vous explique. C'est plutôt LB RB en fait. Ouais, donc c'est pour ça, je comprenais pas. Bizarre.
But when you go into range, they'll radiate with a circle, and then if you press L1 and then R1, you'll activate the Amulet of the Fates, which slows down the world time. Rage of the Titans, activated just like Rage of the Gods in God of War 1. You press the L3 and R3 command, the two analog sticks, press them in. The unique thing about this game is you're able to turn it on and turn it off.
On sent que c'était pas terminé hein.
That's it. That is the little tutorial walkthrough for the God of War 2.
C'est bizarre, moi c'était pas comme ça heureusement. C'est pas très beau. Ça c'est très intéressant. Spoiler alert, ça c'est bon ça. Qu'est-ce qu'on va voir de magnifique? Kratos. Oh, ça c'est intéressant. Ah, la tête, non, j'aime pas. Dommage. La tête, c'est très dommage parce que le bras, il commençait bien. Ah, la tête, elle est horrible. Hein. Mais c'est même pas Kratos, ça. Mais qui est-ce? Je ne le reconnais pas. Ah, j'aime pas du tout la tête.
Direct quote from Dave, you know, that he used a word that a lot, all over. So I knew okay, that's a definite. We need to get that. But at the beginning, we didn't even know if it was going to be male, female. Some of the sketches were actually a female Kratos, possibly. We're looking for anything that might work. This was just, it doesn't really look like much. It's some kind of alien creature. Or a little bit more comical. Big hands, big feet, a flame for his hair. It's almost like holding the weapon like a pool cue. Originally, I was feeling like maybe we need to kind of give him a little soft spot, you know, something that humanizes him. And so that was, we tried the whole baby idea, kind of like the lone wolf and cub, and figured, okay, we can't do a baby because we can't have a baby getting injured or anything like that. So, okay, how about I put a puppy back there, and Dave actually liked that idea at first, but just in terms of implementing it, it would cause a lot more gameplay issues. Eventually, Dave kind of went a different direction with it, and it's like, hey, how about you have to kill the puppy before it turns into Cerebus? I was like, oh, okay.
Trop marrant. Pourquoi ils nous montrent tout ça? Oui, mais ça, c'est dans God of War 1, c'est pas eux qui ont fait ça.
Oh yeah, it's capturing the feeling of what he wanted. The next big challenge was, what is he going to be using? You know, because I mean, this is a game, and one of the big things that we need to really push is, how does he fight? At some point, Dave responded to some chains that I'd put on him, and then at some point, I gave him 2 blades. But those 2 elements were never really put together. They're like, we need to hurry up and come up with something. And I think one day I was like, okay, I'll just go off to lunch by myself. I need to think about this. And went to Carl's Jr. I think I still have that sketch somewhere, and it's like a little napkin sketch. That was the first sketch that we started to go towards. Kratos with the double blades, big thick blades, swinging him around with his chains. As an artist, I would like to push him more. As a game artist, where we ended up, I think it works well.
When I first started here, Kratos had the chain blades. The main thing, like the theory behind all of it, was to maintain the fluidity of the change and the fact that there was weight at the end of them, but not cripple the player because of it. Not like you'd have to sit there and wind up and go all over the place. It was actually just like a performance or something, which sounds you know, but it's not.
The biggest challenge, I guess, would be animating his blades. In the beginning, the rig didn't really support that kind of weapon, so there was an evolution in the way we handle all that. Now the animators are a lot happier. Actually, everything with the rig right now is pretty good. It's pretty easy to animate Kratos compared to the first game.
Kratos was that sort of brutal, no holds barred, just vicious guy. What I was trying to put into it as well was it was sort of the violence, but it also had a bit of the style to it, so that you felt cool playing this guy.
We wanted to keep the player interested, so we can't just do a rehash or recolor of something else. And so we struggled a lot with the powers and also the weapons. In the first game, we had one sub-weapon, the chains and the sword. And so we knew that we needed to expand upon that.
I really wanted to experience that being cut down to size, that fall from grace, and have the player experience that during play, like actually have to deal with all that, and then take a little bit of their own emotions of losing their powers, their frustration, and then it kind of focuses towards the antagonist of like, fuck that guy, he took my stuff.
He looks more smoothly than the first game. Now, texture is more detailed than the first game. But actually, on technical side, is cheaper than the first game character. This is a model with texture, and we use the green color to do all the transparency.
Initially, it was very hard because the design always asks for a lot of things, and my initial reaction is, you know, no, we can't do that, or you're crazy. The tech group and myself, we kind of just beat our heads against the desks and we figure it out and we do it, you know, and then we actually see it and go, oh.
Le vert, c'était une très bonne tactique là. Oui, c'était de faire plus de polygones en fait.
Has full facial animation ability.
Très bonne tactique.
Do fine weighting, all the in-game cinematics are using this model.
We're able to get closer to Kratos during actual gameplay and combat without any of the thing falling apart, which is fantastic. That's a really big thing. He really, I think, goes through a lot. At the end of this one, he's denied again his vengeance, and he finds out something that the extras movie said was already so, but just bummed me out that we said that, so we're pretending that the extras movies aren't 100% there. So all the people out there who are finished the game and have gotten this and have said, oh, what the hell, the extra movie said that Kratos' mom told him that Zeus was his dad. I don't care.
Oh, encore des spoiler alerts. Oui, oui, oui. J'aime. J'adore ça.
A concept artist takes the descriptions from the director and just the story, and we design all the assets, whether it's a character, environment, a prop, whatever, anything visual in the game. We draw it up, we paint it up, and design what it looks like.
We've got this piece here. It's Kratos versus a Minotaur. This is going to be for another Game Informer. One of the nice parts about working on this image was that I got to kind of redesign the Minotaur a little bit, you know, just and had fun with them right here. You can kind of see some of the changes going on here. One of the things that we ran into, because initially I had his head cocked a little bit further over here to his left side, but you don't see his face as well. So this was one of the changes that Corey asked me to do, was try to, you know, cock his head back over a little bit more so we can see his face.
The palace is one of the big locations. It has sort of rounder setting, and as you progress to get to the center, you get sent to the bottom, and then there's dramatic magic release, and then you get to send to the top. I was really excited about the whole concept behind it. One thing that I was able to sell to Corey was having this two monumental statue in the front, so kind of accentuate, you know, actually step into this place, the worshipping like temple.
The write-up they gave me was that he would create a void, and he's supposed to take his weapon, which in this
Il spoil un peu tous les ennemis là derrière, alors qu'il voulait pas le faire tout à l'heure.
And the void would appear near Kratos and strike him. His left arm was supposed to create the void,
Après, du coup, ils ont mis spoiler alert, effectivement.
Body or one arm would be kind of black, or half his body would be draped in cloth. As I went along, I started thinking about,
l'autre, là.
how about if he threw
La
up
méduse
this
derrière.
void? So he would just
C'est
kind of
Eurial,
come
je crois, elle
at you,
s'appelle celle-là.
puke on the floor and create
Ouais,
a
pas ce qui monte là. Hein.
Or he wanted
Mais
it
derrière la
to
grosse
become
méduse là.
more like black smoke.
C'est Eurial. Hein.
So I started playing around with those themes. This was kind of what he bought off on. I was getting really close. I just had to make some minor changes on it. I really like him the way he's looking, and just at this point they killed it. Yeah, it's still one of my favorite pieces. It was a nice, for me, a nice exercise in development.
What I was told was that this is where the boss fight is going to happen between the Sister 1 and Sister 2 and yourself. And the limitations were on this one that it's opulent, just to bling it out, and it's just really grand. With a couple back and forths, I came up with the final image. It's a lot of detail because basically they need this in order to build. Right in these areas, there's like these blue rectangle things. And I was thinking maybe it's just like a top of a pillar, so it could be, metallic or something. But Ken Feldman, he interpreted it as blue velvet pillows. So he actually modeled like blue velvet pillows in that.
Je me souviens pas de ça, moi, dans le jeu. Mais ça devait y être.
It could be seen as a place of worship, so maybe people were to sit on them and stuff like that. But
C'est quoi, regardez les barres de vie en haut et tout ça là? Ce que ça fait des trucs électriques un peu. Bizarre, hein?
Our concepts and seeing it in a 3D form coming alive, that's where like the reward comes from.
All I was really given about the character Oceanus was that he resides in a lake and then comes up out of the lake and starts to wreak havoc on the gods around him. This is what I came up with. Just a lot of variations of the Titan body. The reaction to these was less than stellar. They thought
Je comprends pas pourquoi il tenait à lui faire des jambes aussi petites.
Like the other guys, and what are you doing? With the help of my VizDev team, we were able to kind of push it outside of the box and really make some strange, bizarre things. And my team pushed me and told me, let's make this really weird and not worry about how it works. Just make it cool. This had
Stylé.
a much more favorable reaction, but not there yet. And then he keeps evolving, keeps changing into more of a water creature. The elements that took me to the next step at this point was to abandon his legs. This is where we finally ended up, which was just this sort of whirlpool of water just shooting up into the sky with his fists and just, exuding power. Unfortunately, after all this work, Oceanus was cut entirely from the game. I hate water now. I really do. I just never liked it, don't swim very well, and this kind of confirms it.
Il y en a un, il s'est arraché avec ce design, hein? Oh oui, encore du spoiler alert. Mais en tout cas, ouais, sur le design des trucs en eau, là, il y en a, il y a été. Hein. C'est pas mal en moyenne, quand même. J'aime bien, j'aime bien. Oh, les levels perdus, j'adore ça. C'est le level qui n'existe plus du tout.
So I'm Stig, art director on God of War 2, and we're going to take a look at some of the lost levels of the game. During the pre-production stages of God of War 2, there was a lot of time spent developing different art concepts, not only on paper, but in 3D. We had a lot of new environment artists start on this project. Almost more than half of the environment team was fresh from other companies, and one of the things that we like to start them with is kind of building
Ça aurait été pas mal ça. Bon, après là, on voit que c'est pas fini du tout, mais c'est intéressant.
That we had created on
oh, ils auraient fait ça.
But at the same time, it was good for the whole team because these guys
c'est ultra bien fait.
They were kind of the
les graphismes de fou pour l'époque.
They worked at before, and they came here with all sorts of different techniques and methods, which they shared with the rest of the team. That's
il y avait beaucoup de bonnes idées là quand même.
Such a big jump in the graphics between God of War and God of War 2 is because we got all these fresh ideas. The lost levels, they're not only a good proving ground for the artist to prove himself that he understands the tool and the technology, but it's also a good proving ground for the technology in general. Designing something like a Pegasus level is something that's very challenging.
Oh, ça, non mais tous les trucs perdus, je crois, ça me dégoûte. Ils auraient dû le faire, quoi. Pas que ça, hein, mais tout, quoi.
The way that we build the geometry at a different level of detail, because it's farther away from the camera, to little things like the effects. This is kind of the canyon run stuff that we didn't
Ils auraient dû faire tout
get
ça.
as much of it or any of it as we wanted to get. Atlantis was
Ouais, bon,
gonna be
ça,
an entire
ils s'en sont
world in
occupés
the
dans
game,
God of War, Ghost of Sparta.
and we lost that one too, unfortunately. Maybe it'll
Ah ouais,
come
sur
back
une
some other
plateforme. Ils voulaient en faire un vrai combat, quoi, à la base.
day. This is almost a complete
En fait,
level,
il y a plein de trucs
pretty
perdus
much.
qui ont
We had-
plutôt été utilisés dans Ghost of
we
Sparta,
had,
en fait.
a lot
Au niveau
of,
de Sparte, l'Atlantide,
everything from the
tout
visuals
ça.
down to all the scripting of
Du
the
coup, c'est pas plus mal,
events,
parce que s'ils auraient fait ça dans celui-là, qu'est-ce qu'ils auraient fait dans Ghost of
AI
Sparta, quoi.
placement.
Il aurait peut-être jamais existé.
It's very sad that it had to get cut. I remember when I
C'est
heard
sympa,
about it,
hein.
I was in denial for a few days.
Putain, il aurait dû y avoir tout ça. Ça, c'est du vrai God of War un peu à la 3, un peu.
I think, and we were all very happy with
Ça fait
the
mieux,
other
en vrai.
levels, so it's nice that it got to make it onto the lost levels.
Spoiler alert. Oui, oui, j'adore les spoiler alerts. Là, ça parle de bonnes choses. Continuez comme ça. J'espère que c'est comme ça jusqu'à la fin. C'était super, les niveaux perdus, c'est ouf à chaque fois.
Level design is a lot about coming up with the puzzles and the layout and the pacing of an area and coming up with the themes and how they integrate with the story. I worked with Corey to kind of pace it out on paper in a very, very rough form. Corey figured out what he wanted in the script, and then we agreed upon different worlds and kind of the scale of the worlds, what mechanics we wanted to introduce in those worlds, and then set up the layout to facilitate that. On a day-to-day basis, working with all the different level designers to make sure that everything kind of had a consistent feel to it. And then when you jump on it, it's just like a straight elevator ride down. Level design is about planning and like figuring out like, okay, if we want this, then like how are we going to stage this, and kind of sticking to your guns, but at the same time having the fluidity to kind of like change gears when you need to, just be like, oh, well, that totally doesn't work, throw it away, you know, and like, you know, start all over again.
Basically, you have to look at the game from the top down. So we have to say, well, we just had a puzzle here, so let's try to like have a big fight, because it's a little bit more visceral after you just used your brain to, you know, figure out this crazy puzzle that we threw in. So we do that kind of stuff, like just how we want the fights to go, difficulty level of the fight. How we determine how to pace the fights is very much trial and error. We'll spend days on a fight. And then
Les ennemis s'envolaient beaucoup plus facilement, j'ai l'impression, dans leur test, que dans le jeu final.
You can tell just by watching them play.
Camera design is basically taking the player and guiding them through the interactive experience. So the camera designer's job is to help the player understand a puzzle, where to go, what he needs to see in order.
Je suis d'accord, mais ils le font bien à chaque fois dans God of War. Hein. Tu sais où il faut aller, et du coup, tu sais où aller d'abord pour les trucs bonus, quoi. Très rare que ça arrive que ce soit mal fait.
Everything that he needs to know in order to become a master at the game.
When we're doing like play tests and stuff like that, we're trying to figure out what are these players trying to see.
We try to make sure that we're thinking about, well, what is the player's experience at any point, and what is the player thinking about, and so we show that.
The basic viewpoint is that we're trying to stay behind Kratos, and we're trying to lead the player in the proper direction. We change it up when you get into an arena and you do some combat and stuff like that. Generally, you don't necessarily need to be behind Kratos at that point of view. You want to see all the enemies and stuff around you. So we might go to a side view, we might go to a three-quarter.
Le spoil sévère. Hein.
We go to different views in order to provide perspective for the player so that he can see the enemies around him a little bit better. He can have combat a little bit better. His controls feel right for the combat. But that wouldn't necessarily
la fin du jeu,
view that we have for when they're,
bon, c'est pas la première fois, mais
you know, following them, when we're trying to just lead them from one point to another point.
We take control away from the player on the camera, and we give them the shots they want and let them focus on just the gameplay itself. A limitation of our fixed camera system is that we have to show certain things at different points. So a lot of times we set up what's called a cut camera, and we, like, you walk into a room, there's a lever on the other side, and we need to let you know that that's where you need to be. So we'll zoom in on the lever, show that, and then back out and say, okay, you know, now do what you want, but we pretty much just told you where to go.
You only notice the cameras when they're bad. So I think that if you don't notice the camera work, I think maybe we're doing our job right.
I get the most satisfaction when I've completely designed a space, and a room or a WOD, we call them, and I pass that off to the artists, and then the artists dump all their art in and pass it off back to me. And it's the first time I see it, and it's all fully arted, and I'm like, whoa, this is what I designed? This is what the artist did with that space? This is the sheet version of the level. This is the start point in the sky.
Ah oui, effectivement.
It's just a sandbox for us to go in and figure out exactly how the design is going to work. This is after the sheet version that I just showed you was sent off to the artists and then returned. It's really magical when it comes back from the artists, and they've done really cool stuff with it.
I was presented with a door and a dead body, and I knew I needed to use the dead body in some way, some new and interesting way, in order to get through that door. So what I have here is the actual level that I was presented with in a wireframe, and this is the completed in-game version. Initially, the player may think that they have to put the dead body on the pressure plate and just walk over here, but since the door only opens halfway, that's not the entire puzzle. If they come over here, they'll notice there's this other pressure plate, which opens the door all the way. So if I make a run for it, kind of go through, I just don't have enough time in order to get over there. So the distance between here and the final door is much less than the distance between here and the final door.
Non mais qu'est-ce qu'il nous explique des trucs qui paraissent évidents? Ah, un bouton plus loin, bah il est plus loin. Super. Hein. Et en plus il nous spoil, c'est la meilleure énigme. Elle est facile et tout ça, mais c'est le genre de truc que tu peux vraiment galérer des heures, des jours dessus, si, en vrai. Hein. Et il nous la spoil. Elle est trop bien celle-là.
And oh, there's my dead body. So pick that bad boy up, put him onto the pressure plate.
Je me souviens quand j'étais petit, j'avais galéré quelques jours, hein, je crois, dessus. Hein. Qu'est-ce que je regrette l'époque quand j'étais petit où, effectivement, dans des jeux, des fois, tu bloques à un endroit pendant des jours. Tu reviens tous les jours et tu comprends pas. Et un jour, tu y arrives.
And then I'll start like going down on paper and like just drawing, like sketching out the rough ideas. And then from there I go into like Maya, and then I'll start actually building out the level, putting the points in, and then I'll start going in there and like tweaking it and tuning it until it's done. I was thinking like, wouldn't it be cool if something else is kind of going on in the background, something else to kind of like as you're going through.
Fallait bien rebondir, vous avez vu. C'est ça.
Like a fuse on a bomb or something.
Et pas d'autre solution.
And something also visually, like so when you're going through like this, you're like, shit, that's awesome, you know. Like this is like a really cool sequence. So am I gonna make it? Am I gonna make it? Am I gonna make it? That's kind of like the ramping up that I wanted to feel, and then like that last moment when you're flying through, and then you make it, and then you're like, whew, you know, I'm done. I hope in the end, you know, even if you're restarting and playing through a couple times, that it's not that long and you'll be able to get through it and you'll be able to have a, you know, an awesome experience. So.
Il y a un petit bruit là. C'est incroyable. Je suis désolé mais... Ça s'entend même pas dans les décibels et moi j'entends qu'il y a un bruit de leur micro. C'est incroyable. Dès qu'il y avait l'image qui apparaissait, il y a un bruit de fond. En même temps, vu mon casque. N'ayez pas peur si vous l'entendez pas, vous.
Something where you finish it, you're like, oh, I need to tell my friends.
Il y a très peu de chances que vous ayez un casque comme le mien.
Did you play him this way? That type of thing.
Not only is he the sort of final boss, but he's also the kind of the main antagonist. That if we do a third game, he will kind of stretch into the third.
He was such an iconic figure that to ground Kratos back into Greek mythology. We wanted to make sure that when people looked at him, they knew right away that it was Zeus. They didn't have to guess, they didn't, you know. So it was pretty easy coming up with Zeus.
I definitely didn't want to stray too far from where I think the literature and everybody's sort of traditional perception of where Zeus is at.
Character artist gets the concept art from that department and just sculpts it in polygons and then paints on a texture and tries to make sure that it looks like what the intention was on the part of the producers and the concept artists. We're between concept art and animation in the pipeline. After we're done with it, we end up handing it off to the animators and make sure that it's all correct for what they need and, you know, that he bends correctly and that he moves the way he's supposed to.
We wanted to make it epic in the sense that Kratos is small and Zeus is very big. But we knew we had some problems with that, so we kind of played with scale, bringing Zeus down, making Zeus back to big.
When we started modeling and texturing Zeus, we didn't know that he was going to be a normal-sized guy and then a giant-sized guy. So that ended up adding a little bit of work to the process to make sure that he held up resolution-wise. The fun part is painting the texture on and putting all the wrinkles and stuff in there.
So we have two different models, a big one and a small one. And trying to get the big one to end up in the small space where the player doesn't realize that, you know, they've kind of been tricked that now we're loading up the small one or now we're loading up the big one. So we had to play with various ideas of, you know, we scale him up kind of off camera, but you kind of allude to it that, he's growing. Then when we cut back, you see him, you're like, oh, you know, that happened. So here we have a different model of Zeus, the big one. And then right there, we swap to the small one. And right here, we bring the small one back in.
So using a camera POV change to suggest the...
Right, we have the camera kind of emulate his eyes looking down and shrinking and all that. We didn't want to give him straight melee attacks, so sort of like how the Colossus is like punching at Kratos. We wanted to keep him more magical. So the things that we're working on are attacks that keep his godlike appearance without getting his hands dirty.
They have so much history, and that history kind of unfolds in the horrible things that they do to each other in this fight. So it's a sort of an interesting tying together of all these different elements and really bringing together the actual mythology of all of these gods being completely insecure because of the kind of cyclical nature of overthrowing each other.
The thing that you're going to hopefully remember about Zeus will be not only was the fight very fun, but the fight came to a finale where you're like, oh, now I see what they were doing and where they're going, and I can't wait for the next one.
Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert. Aide! Il y a vraiment un bruit à chaque fois qu'il y a ce fond. Donc il reste après juste quand il y a une image en fait.
These kind of creatures are, you know, in mythology there was this. What if we took that but kind of put a spin on it so that it behaved this way? And then we'll sit down with the concept artist and we're like, oh, okay, we got this idea. Here's these things that we want to get out of the creature. And then the concept artist will come back with like 20 or 30 different ideas.
Ce qu'il faut exceptionnel, c'est que c'est un bruit qui est même pas détecté dans le truc de décibels en fait, tellement que c'est un bruit bas.
What sticks, kind of like the shotgun approach. And we'll go through, we're like, oh, I wasn't thinking that, but I wasn't thinking this either, and that will really work.
The simplicity of this one, but the sort of the personality in the face of this one, getting across that. But I mean, I love the skinniness of this guy.
And then from there, we'll sit down with kind of the animators and the character modelers. And we go, okay, here's the personality, here's what we kind of want to get from it. And then we usually try to keep everyone in the loop so that when everyone else is working on their sort of set of creatures, they know what we're doing over here. So that way we don't have too much overlap.
Most of the combat design that myself and the other combat designers do is on the enemy side or the boss's sides. So we come up how the enemy's going to fight Kratos and his unique attributes and his style and what he's going to do. We also come up with like the little tricks or the strategy that you're going to use against this enemy. And then from there, we come up with the animation lists and we work with the animator and we go back and forth deciding like how's this guy going to attack, how fast he's going to attack, what types of blocks he's going to use or whatever strategy it might be. From there, then we go into the code and we start building the character out, get him into the level, get him running, and play around with him, have him fight Kratos, trying to come up with the coolest way to kill him off. From there, it's just revisions over and over. The trick with this guy is he's covering up a little pressure plate. And what you'll need to do is just attack one of his tentacles till he gets stunned, and he's going to lift up his tentacle. And now you're going to use that last Spartan, you're going to use his body to hold that pressure plate down. What that does is it opens up a vent, and this is where the Phoenix came from. Now you can use your Icarus wings to fly up in the air, but you got to be careful of the Kraken hitting you down. So you want to use the Icarus wings to fly up, and then you'll get high enough where you can hit the Kraken in the head, and that's where he's actually vulnerable. One of the initial goals that we wanted was to create a puzzle-like boss fight, so it's not just hacking away and beating up somebody and avoiding their attacks. It's not just simple hack and slash.
Kratos is interacting with the sisters throughout the whole game. You see him as statues.
C'est le fameux Jason McDonald, on l'avait vu lui.
Vision, little sequences. So
on l'a vu dans les crédits, on l'a vu.
Kratos actually gets up to them and has to fight them. That we wanted to make it a kind of a big event. So first,
c'est donc lui.
Kind of fight her on the ground. She'll kind of hang out over here and dash around and throw these little fireballs at you. From a combat point of view, this was definitely one of the most challenging parts of the game. Well, eventually, she basically flies up in the air like this. So, you as a player, you can't really do much from this distance. So hopefully, you've taken.
Il est bête ou quoi? Pourquoi il s'accroche pas au truc? Bah voilà. Oh, moi, elle m'a jamais fait ça.
Very long because she'll shoot you down. So what you basically got to do is you got to jump from each one to each and hit her in the middle, just like that. And eventually, you'll get her to a little stunned state, whereas you can jump here and take her out. We've been working on this for a couple months now. We're starting to see how it's going to be and how fun it's going to be, and hopefully everybody else will think it's fun too.
You do not defy fate, Kratos!
This is our wireless technology, the Sony wireless controller. We actually just took a controller and cut off the cord. We use this for when we're planning out the button mapping in order to make the controls feel as efficient and as sort of thoughtless for the player as possible. It's natural in one sense because we're always using the L1 for a shift. So we just explain it in the shift mechanic of L1 plus R1. L1 and R2 is what Amulet of the Fates used to be. And it's a very awkward button combination for people, so now we've moved it to just R2. You turn it on, you turn it off, single button activation. And then we've taken the sub-weapons, which used to be just on R2, and we've turned that into an L1 plus R1 combination. The balance between the L1 and the face buttons being on opposite hands, I think really helps people to be able to use it as kind of a shift functionality. L1, so it's not that bad. This is the
toujours plus, hein, calme-toi.
Over this for probably about 3 months.
Comment il l'a jeté?
So many different control schemes to maintain the really smooth, easy controls we had from the last game, but cram in 9 other features. We were already out of buttons from the last game, so it was very hard. Thank you guys.
Ça va, c'est pas trop bugué, tout va bien. Les animations.
I plan and bring together all of the elements of what needs to happen for in-game animations. It's really all about going and working with the guys and making sure that they have what they need and that they're on the right track.
Pretty much everybody in the animation team except for me is new. So with that, you get a lot of fresh ideas. One of the things she does is
plus communément appelé Eurial.
Come off the pillars and just charge at you. And the idea behind this one was to have her, because she's so thick and bulky compared to the other Medusas, I figured I'd make her move more like an alligator. I figured that would be the most threatening creature you could.
Eh ben, ça doit faire mal au sein de se frotter comme ça par terre.
A lot of people like when they see her like that and come at you. It's like, oh, she's scary.
When they do it, you want them to be like, oh my god, you know, like that's the payoff for it all. The one that's always in the press actually is the Cyclops eye rip. This is what's in the game now. Hopefully it doesn't change before the end of the game. People love this move just because of the eye ripping part. It was that moment that people react to. feel it. Sometimes I use video, like I guess. This is embarrassing, but yeah, that's me.
C'est bon, le fond c'était Sensro.
Sometimes you just gotta feel it out and get the motion, especially with
Non.
stumbling and
C'est une hallucination.
have more acting to them.
My favorite sequence is probably the Theseus one. During that sequence, Kratos
J'espère pas qu'il ait fait ça.
into Theseus, who's hanging
Il ne
off
peut
the
pas avoir un
Theseus.
fond d'écran Sensro.
He pulls him down, and as it's coming down, he punches Theseus into the door, grabs Theseus' weapon, and then stabs him against the door. Then he grabs the key for the door from Theseus, and he puts the key into the lock. When the lock opens, Theseus slips to the floor, and then he makes one last effort to grab Kratos. And Kratos pulls away and stomps his head in between the door. And at this point in the game, you can mash the door into Theseus' head. So when it finally gets into the game, into like the final form, it's a relief because it's like now I've finally finished, you know, and I can move on to the next thing.
Feel like I'm a little bit twisted. Coming up with different ideas, how to kill. How many ways can you kill someone? Originally, he was going to break his neck. I have an animation here. We had him jumping up on him and breaking his neck, and it just wasn't reading properly. It just didn't feel right, like Kratos. It wasn't brutal enough. So it was changed to this one.
Being new
C'est pas très bien fait, hein.
my very first whole character that I got to do. He's seen around the world, and you fight him in a lot of battles. Sometimes you find multiple ones, which is really tough. This is just the actual CS move where Kratos grabs the Minotaur's weapon and actually uses it against him to impale him and kill him. What we were working on was trying to make the Minotaur react like he would, like a beast or creature would. You know, anytime he gets hit, he's growling back at you and he's reacting to what Kratos is doing. The other challenge is in the middle of this anim, there's a struggle minigame where it stops and the player has to mash on the button to impale him. And that's actually pretty difficult. You know, it seems like it's just a two-pose off thing, but I spent a lot of time trying to make sure that when he's pulling, you know, the strength of Kratos feels good, you know, the character responding and trying to pull back feels correct. And we're still working on it. It's not completely final yet, but a couple more passes.
Ouais, elle est mieux celle-là.
We'll be there.
Ouais. Tiana, il faisait que de gueuler, on sait pas pourquoi il fait le. Ouais, là, ils ont choisi celle-là. Mais non, il fait que de. Il fait rien, il fait juste que de gueuler, quoi. Ah, du coup, il fait pas de bruit, il crie pas, ouais, mais visuellement, il crie. C'est pas.
If I was to compare it to one of the magics in the first game, I guess it would be more like the Tous lightning bolt, which allowed the player to reach enemies that were out of range. This is an example of one of the special moves that he can do with the bow. As you can see here, the bow seems kind of thick. Since it's made out of wind, the artists have actually created the animation within the bow. There's some textures here that actually animate and flow. Then once this gets into the game, you don't actually see the thickness. You only see this kind of translucent wind and air flowing through. So it's a really cool idea that the concept artist came up with. And the only solid part on the wind bow is this face right here. One of the special moves that are done with the wind bow, as you can see here, Kratos is just madly shooting arrows all over the ground in the circle, and it creates this huge tornado, which is quite cool in the game. You can definitely damage a lot of enemies. We try to, you know, make him vicious, make every move that he does fit his character, his brutality. Definitely, that's definitely what we try to go for, but without trying to, you know, hopefully people won't think that we're crazy.
Oh là là, un petit spoiler alerte, oui. Oui.
Anytime the player loses control of the game, we cut away to either what we call an in-game cinematic, which is rendered in the game engine, or you cut away to a high-res cinematic.
The biggest challenge would be just trying to make it as seamless as possible, like from actual gameplay 2 cinematics.
I provide the connection between all of the different departments that touch cinematics. It hasn't changed the end pose, right? Correct. It requires constant emails, phone calls, making sure that everybody's on the same page with the script, any dialogue changes, Corey's new wishes, music, sound effects, the whole 9 yards. We have about 42 cinematics ranging in length between 20 seconds and 3.5 minutes. So getting all of those to the level of a AAA title takes a little bit of coordination.
In-game cinematics are the cinematics that are run through the actual game engine. In other words, these cinematics have to use game assets, the same characters, the same environments, the same lighting.
Mostly I do in-game cinematics. What I'm going to show you is a cut between combat move to the next gameplay. And right now it's a very raw stage wherein there's no special effects, no particles, and no ambient sound. The challenges of this cut scene is just to convey Kratos' anger because he thought he already killed Colossus when actually he hasn't. So he's thrown into this water level. This is one of those cinematics that doesn't involve any dialogue or voiceover. It's pure cutscene.
By the way, just for the record, this is how I come to work every day. Each character has these controls by which we can move them. We have a timeline, so basically what we're doing is we're posing the character on certain keyframes, and then when you play it back, you actually get the animation. It's exciting to be doing this. It's the funnest job, it's the best job, and I love it. I don't know, I just love doing it.
The most satisfying thing is when I really can take all of these pieces that exist already, some of the ones that I've had to make myself, and put them together and everything just clicks. This is a movie called Blade Offer 05. It's when Zeus gives you the Sword of Olympus. So what I needed to do was recreate roads. I used a lot of these pieces that had been built already, and then I had to build a few of the things myself, like this top stuff that you don't actually see in the game. Here's Kratos doing his thing. I had to put in all these sprites of clouds that they look strange here, but they render out correctly. Zeus opens the clouds and shows this light down, and here comes the Blade of Olympus. Comes down and there's these dust clouds, and then there's this little crack that pops up. I send all the information over to our dev kit that then builds everything.
I offer you the Blade of Olympus.
J'aime pas la voix anglaise de Zeus. Pas la voix américaine du coup, mais voilà, vous avez compris.
The high-res cinematics are cinematics that are pre-rendered. They don't have to go through the game engine at all. They can use any type of effects, any type of models, any type of lighting, whatever to make it beautiful. So the high-res cinematics may be more similar to an actual film. For the high-res cinematics, we start with a storyboard, and we make sure to test all of our shots, test our ideas here on paper before doing anything.
Cinématiques comme ça, elles sont incroyables.
On the storyboards, we outline our moves, get our actors together, our mocap actors, go down to the facility, do the shoot. This is a photo from one of our shoots. Me and 2 of the actors. I handled directing the actors. Everyone was suited up. You have to start in a T stance, and the cameras rotate around so that you can calibrate all the different markers that are on the character. Each marker is connected by a line. Think of a dot to dot that we've all done as little kids. It kind of looks like that. After the shoot, this is what we get back, which is actually Rhea that you saw. She's holding a baby that she doesn't want to give away, but her husband Kronos has been eating all of the babies, so the only way for the baby to live is if she gives the baby away, and this is the final goodbye. This is all raw mocap data with no cleanup, no hair, and a temporary model. We send the data to an external studio. External studio starts to build the cameras, put the characters in front of the cameras, building shots and timing. And the external studio places that data into a scene with their high-res set and their cameras. They also put it on a model that they've built high-res that's gone through an approval process here. And then on top of that, they're of course building models and environments and textures and lighting. And this is the exciting part. This is what we're just starting to get back now.
But when the time came for the last of her children to be eaten, She was unable to bear another such loss, and devised a trick to save the baby Zeus.
There are a lot of mistakes, a lot of clipping issues. It's first pass cloth, it's first pass hair. All of the scenes are not rendered, but this is the first renders that we've seen. Now, over the course of the next few weeks, we will spend our time giving revisions back to the external studio so that everything can be brought to final. It's going to be great once it all comes together.
Rhea commanded the eagle to secret her son away. He was taken to an island well beyond the watchful eyes of Cronus.
La coupure qu'il y a eu, quand même, c'est un peu abusé. Hein. Bon, je crois que c'est le dernier contenu vidéo, ou même contenu tout court, de tout ça, donc profitons.
So I'm Stig, art director on God of War 2. We had developed, only 3 bosses in the last game, so we came out with this one with a goal of, trying to multiply that by 5, it seemed like at first. Icarus was an interesting boss too, because it was, just trying to bring this almost like Aqualung, Jethro Tull type old, disgusting man, and making him just look as crazy and evil as possible, but at the same time, there's a little bit of comedy to his character, as well as the Fat Medusa. I mean, obviously, she's grotesque, and she feels very much like she's part of the same family as Sister 3, which is another one of these giant grotesque beasts. Sister 3 had to, very challenging character, we had to make sure that all of the stuff that was coming through in the concept, all the threads, the fat, the grotesque pus and pimples, and we could pull that off in 3D. And there was a lot of back and forth going between concept and the final product. And we ended up pretty much all of the boss characters that we originally concept, we ended up creating for the game, which is pretty impressive.
Eh bien, voilà la VOD. C'est terminé. J'espère que cette aventure sur God of War 2 vous a beaucoup plu. Si c'est le cas, écoutez, dans le chronologique, je vous invite à aller voir maintenant mon let's play sur God of War 3 et celui qui conclut la mythologie grecque. Donc voilà, gros bisous, I love you, et puis à très bientôt. Et faites un tour sur mes lives aussi si je suis pas mort, hein, ça me fait plaisir. Allez.